Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, DJ Hamilton of the DJ Sports Show here on WRCR 1700 AM radio, here on this cold, sunny day here in Garnerville, New York. We have a great show here for you guys today. Talk some Juan Soto to the Mets, what it means for the Mets and what's next for them. Talk Bill Belichick going to the UNC Tar Heels to be the new head coach for the football program. And at the end of the show, talk about my NBA quarterly awards as we approach the quarter mark of the NBA season. Before we get into the show, I just want to say, how you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing great, DJ. Welcome.
Hey, I know usually across from me is either Will or Matt. This is a new one here today.
You got the old guy this time.
I wouldn't say it. I'll say the knowledgeable guy.
Who actually knows a little sports. A little, not a lot.
Not
I
a
bow
lot.
to you, just a little.
But hey, man, we're going to get into some of it today. But I'm not going to do these first two segments alone, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to introduce my guy who's a fan-sided writer for the Buffalo Bills, Jon O'Donnell. How you doing, John?
DJ, I'm doing great. How are you today?
Oh, doing great, man. It's a little cold over here in New York. How's it where you at?
Yeah, here in Northwest Ohio, it's about 15, 20 degrees. So, yeah, we got some cold.
Oh, yeah. High. Oh, yeah. Definitely always cold over there.
You're not wrong.
So, John, yes, let's get right into it. So, the first thing let's talk about the Mets first, baseball. So, there's been a lot of big news recently, early in this week. The biggest news, though, was the New York Mets signing Juan Soto last Sunday to the largest contract in professional sports history, 15 years, $765 million. Hey, I'm sure we could hope for $1 million from him, right, guys? We should ask him, hey, you think you could give us a couple million? But, yes, the largest contract in sports history. So his contract won't be deferred. It passes Shohei Ohtani's record from last season, where he signed 10 years, $700 million. Whereas opposed to Ohtani deferred his money, Soto didn't. And he could opt out after the 2029 World Series, so after 5 years he has a player option. And the Mets can negate that opt-out provision by increasing the yearly salaries from 2030 to 2039 by $4 million annually to $50 million and raising the total value to $805 million. There's also some incentives that if he wins the MVP, his first one, he gets an extra $500,000, and then any other MVP after that, he gets $1 million on top of that. So, John, I know you said you like a little baseball. So what was your initial reaction when Soto went to the Mets, and how do you think he could help them?
So I think as a player, Juan Soto is going to be an excellent addition to the Mets. That is a team that needed power in the lineup. He's not great defensively, but he's not a complete liability either. I think that he is going to help, if they can bring Pete Alonso back, he's going to help a good lineup become a very good lineup and compete in the National League. The problem is, last time I checked, the Dodgers are still in the National League, and the Mets are still very far away from that standard. So on the field, I think it's a good addition. In terms of the thoughts on the contract, I think it's an absolute terrible contract, which is right on brand with what the Mets have done since they've meted there in New York. Bobby Bonilla Day still is a thing, $1 million every July 1st. Other big contracts, the pitchers whose arms fell off and no longer worked. The Mets front office, even though it's under Steve Cohen, new ownership, has signed a contract that's really going to lock up the Mets and what they can do in the near future. In my near future, I mean 5 to 10 years, and that's a long time for a baseball organization.
Exactly. Some good points over there. I kind of agree with you that the contract, I think it shouldn't have been 15 years. He's, 25? You think he's really going to stay there the length of the contract? Let's be realistic. He's probably going to opt out within that 5-year option and maybe look elsewhere, depending on how the team does the next few seasons. And I think he's really only going to be effective for maybe a quarter of the contract or a third of it, maybe for the first 5 years. That's if he stays healthy. And like you said, he's not a great defender in the outfield. He's lackluster in that. He's maybe just, middle in terms of that. But in terms of as a hitter, he's a great power hitter. He actually had his career high in home runs this past season, 41. Him with Francisco Lindor, I think, going to be a dynamic duo in the batting order. They're going to be probably the first two batters up, especially if Alonso doesn't decide to come back. But just like with him and Judge last season, like when I predicted when him and Judge, I thought they were going to be a great dynamic duo. Lindor and him were top 15 in home runs last season. They both had over 30 home runs last season as well, and they're some of the most feared hitters in the MLB. And just like you said, I also agree that yes, the NL is more loaded. It's not even just the Dodgers with Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, but you also got the San Diego Padres. They got Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr. They're no team to sleep on. You also got the Philadelphia Phillies, Bryce Harper, Trea Turner and the crew. Like, they have a loaded crew as well, a great batting box, and you can't sleep on those three teams right there. So it was kind of confusing to me when he kind of went to the Mets, and he did mention some comments like during his press conference on why he went to the Mets, and here's what Juan Soto had to say.
Well, they showed me how the organization runs things and how they're gonna manage things and how they look at their future. I think it was one of the things that opened my eyes a little bit more. What they've been constructing and building to take all the way up to 15 years, 20 years, you never know. But definitely that was one of the things that opened my eyes more. How hungry they are to win a championship and to want to make a dynasty in the New York Mets.
So yes, that was Juan Soto during his introductory press conference to the New York Mets on Thursday. So I don't know if you got to listen to the introductory press conference, John, but he did mention family a lot in that introductory press conference, how important family was to him, how they treated his family. And I kind of felt like he was taking shots at the New York Yankees. Jeff, I know when you heard that, I know you don't watch sports like that, but when you hear how many times he mentioned family, it doesn't seem like he's kind of taking shots at the team next door.
A little bit, little gutsy, a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's right on brand with Scott Boras' clients, though, right? Like, Scott Boras encourages his clients to pretty much take shots as they go out the door. I don't think that's anything new. And I know there was reporting about how the Yankees may have treated his mother and some other members for not having passes into certain parts of the stadium. But, I mean, isn't that what security's supposed to do? I feel like that could have been handled in-house rather than, publicly like Juan Soto did. But, hey, look, to his credit, he's free to go where he wants to go. The one thing I found disingenuous about that whole thing is a dynasty as the New York Mets. Last time I checked, the Yankees have the most banners hanging in their stadium than anybody, so I found that to be a little tongue-in-cheek. But good on him to try and make good at his press conference.
Yeah, last time I checked, the Mets haven't won a World Series since 1986. What do you mean dynasty? It's been almost 30 years since you guys won a World Series. So I kind of got perplexed there. You know, some people like to live in their own delusions or alternate reality, but I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to make himself feel better for leaving the Yankees. And yeah, I did see a report that he did leave the Yankees part of it because there was a security incident early, like in September, I believe. The report I saw that security had to escort his family out of a certain situation that happened. I don't know exactly what happened, but I think maybe that played into effect of why he wanted to leave. And then there was also rumors that his relationship with Aaron Judge wasn't the best. I don't know how true that was. And he also mentioned that he hasn't really spoken to any of his teammates since they lost the World Series, like any of the players. And then I saw something this morning on Instagram how they said he changed his phone number. I'm just like, wait, maybe that's why nobody has reached out, because they don't have his phone number, but yet he still has theirs. So it kind of says to me that it's like a big FU to the Yankees, because it's like he didn't really want to be there. He was a 1-year rental, like similar to like Kawhi to the Raptors, but yet Kawhi actually brought the championship to the Raptors. Soto, the Yankees came up short. That's the only difference to me.
Well, I think the bigger difference to me in that comparison is Juan Soto is still very young. Yeah. I don't know that he's at the height of his powers, and he better not be, because if he's going to hit 45 home runs a year for, I don't know, let's just say it's 5-7 years, that's not worth $800 million.
Yeah.
That's not going to get it done. So I think he has to improve on the production that he can bring. And one thing you mentioned, and I think this is really worth mentioning too, Lindor is a team-first guy, and I was very interested seeing him and Soto and how they get along. I know there's reporting that they have a good relationship, but Juan Soto seems to make good relationships, sour. Don't forget, this will be his fourth team since he came into the league. He's a very young player still, so I think his relationship with Lindor and the other stars on that team is really something to watch going forward.
And remember, he was the guy that turned down a $440 million contract with the Washington Nationals back in, I think, 2020, 21, around that range. And he left that team after they won the World Series title. He was only 21 years old. I'm like, what is going on here? So yes, people could say he went to the Mets because of the money. I know he doesn't want to mention the money. He wants to mention family. But let's be real. If you're getting that type of money, are you guys going to turn it down?
I'm not. It's unanimous. None of us are.
Yeah, I don't think any person in their right mind, that's generational wealth for how many generations of your family, as long as you take care of it, obviously, and the team willing to invest in you, especially when you're a one-dimensional player. He's not a pitcher. like Ohtani, and he can't play in the outfield. So he's just a dynamic hitter. That's really what he is. And once he can't do that, I say like next 6-7 years, say he's going to get older, he's not going to be as fast or agile. He's really going to be limited to being a DH. So I want to know how this contract is going to play out down the line. But it's not even just Soto. Like the Mets, they still have some holes they need to fill. They still need to get stronger in their pitching. They were a middle of the pack pitching team on earned runs allowed last season. And we don't know if Alonso's going to come back. They're going to have a hole at first base. Well, Mark Vientos is the third baseman. Will he move over to first base if Alonso doesn't come back? Or I know there's been some talks. I've been doing some research last few days that Alonso does want to come back. It seems like he might come back, but he wants to explore the market. But, hey, the Yankees, they did sign some pitchers such as, what's his name, Clay Holmes, who was the closer for the Yankees last year. He's been a two-time All-Star in the league. I know he gave up that grand slam in September 3rd, I think, against Freddie Freeman. Walk off. That's not a good way to close things out. But overall, he's a great closer. He came to the Mets because he wanted to be a starting pitcher. And then they also signed Frankie Montas. And we'll see if there's still some key pitchers out there they could potentially sign because Steve Cohen has a lot of cash. Sean Manaea, who was great in the second half for them last year. He was their ace pitcher for them. You have Corbin Burns, who's a former Cy Young winner back in 2021 when he was with the Milwaukee Brewers. And he has a relationship with David Stearns, who's the president of operations for the New York Mets. He used to be the GM for the Brewers when, Burns was the Cy Young pitcher. So that's that relationship right there. Maybe he could have connection. Maybe he could bring him to the Mets. That would be great for the Mets. They could use a pitcher like that. So there's some interesting pieces, and they need to get stronger at their pitching and also at first base. It's not just their hitting, but I think their hitting will be just fine, but it's going to be tough in the NL.
But here's the problem, DJ, I see with the Mets, and this is a Steve Cohen problem. The money that Steve Cohen is willing to spend is a great thing for Mets fans, but is it a great thing for an organization? Baseball is not usually built as top-heavy as Steve Cohen is trying to make it. Usually the foundation is your minor league system and homegrown stars. Look at Aaron Judge in New York. Now, how do the Mets do that? Do they have the right people to build that foundation underneath what is a very top-heavy organization? I have no confidence in the Mets doing it because, like you said, it's been 40 years since they managed to do it, and they've been a dumpster fire in that regard. So spending money's great, but you have to spend it wisely and support it with a good organization. I think if I'm a Mets fan, that's what my biggest concern is.
And before we close out this topic, here's what Juan Soto had to say on his impression of the Mets.
I think, like I said before, the city of New York is always welcoming you and making you feel your family great. You know, it's a lot to do with that. But definitely what they show and what they have and what they do in here, I think it's one of the biggest things for me. And when I see it and look at my family, I think they're gonna have the best time. And that's what I look up. What they show me. They always talk about family. They always talk about stick together and stuff like that. And that's one of the things that open my eyes and in the side of my family, in the standpoint, and that's when I start thinking about all the love that they can give me for me and my family.
The preceding program has been furnished by its host and sponsors.
Yeah, so that's what Soto had to say about his family impression of the Mets. So, yeah, we'll see. Where do you think the Mets will end up finishing next season? Do you think they could be a top 4 team in the National League?
If I was going to bet on that, I would say no. I have the Braves winning the National League, followed by the Dodgers, and then I think you've got the Padres are there. And I guess I have the Mets at 4th penciled in, but don't forget that NL Central with the Brewers and the Cubs are young and up and coming. I think that the Mets are going to struggle to get into the top 3 at least, maybe top 4, maybe as I talk it out. But look, the Braves are going to win the NL in my opinion. They're going to come back real strong this year.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I see them as a team, maybe the 5th team in the NL. I just think the NL is really loaded. And Soto, he left the AL, which is considered weaker and maybe an easier run to the World Series. But, hey, he's going to have his hands full now. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what goes on in New York this upcoming season. So before we take a break, we're going to quickly talk about Bill Belichick to UNC. So recently, maybe this probably must have been the biggest news all year, maybe this past week, excuse me. Bill Belichick decided to become the college football head coach for the UNC Tar Heels. This is a program that has kind of struggled the last few seasons, and now you signed the greatest coach of all time. And before we get into it, here's what Bill Belichick had to say on why he chose to come to North Carolina.
We went through a process, but it was great. Every step of the way was great. The support was tremendous. All the things that I feel are important to having a successful program, Bubba and Chancellor Roberts reaffirmed, and I think they've made a great commitment to this program. Obviously, of a great university, and I'd say along the way, as kind of things got out, if you will, the amount of support that I got from Carolina grads, former Carolina football players, people that are connected with this university was really overwhelming. And not that I'm any social media expert, because I'm not, but there was an awful lot of, positive feedback from my face and stuff like that, and it was great.
When he said my face, I'm like, wait, what does he do? Does he mean mind space?
Is that a thing now? My face? Is that a thing?
I've never even heard of that app. I know MySpace was popular back in the day.
I remember it too.
Do you ever heard of that one, John? My face?
Yeah, sitting him in front of an 18-year-old recruit and having him talk about my face seems to be a successful way for North Carolina to get the best high school talent in the door. That seems like a great idea.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, but hey, the college football world, they had Deion Sanders come a couple years ago. Deion Sanders almost led his team to the college football playoffs in their second season at Colorado. He brought massive ratings to college football. And now you have Bill Belichick, who's considered the greatest NFL coach of all time. He's the second winningest coach when you combine regular season and postseason success in NFL history, behind only Don Shula. He has the most Super Bowl wins of all time, 6 with the New England Patriots as the head coach, and 2 as defensive coordinator with the New York Giants. And he's a 3-time former NFL Coach of the Year. This guy has a great pedigree, 24 seasons with the Patriots, won 17 AFC titles, made 13 AFC conference titles appearances, and 9 Super Bowl appearances. He's a bona fide winner. And this is a UNC football team that is pretty much third fiddle compared to programs such as the women's soccer team over there. They just won their 23rd national championship, the women's soccer team in North Carolina. The men's basketball team has won 6 national championships. The UNC football team has never won a national championship in their program's history. Now you bring in a coach who knows how to win and had built great habits. And he also has ties with North Carolina. His dad, Steve, was an assistant coach for 2 years from 1953 to 55 before ultimately becoming a coach at Navy for 3 decades. And that's where Belichick really learned the game, the fundamentals. He started watching film with his dad, looking at diagrams and be able to dissect plays. And that's how he became such a master of the game. So he has ties to North Carolina. So when you saw breaking news that Belichick was going to UNC, what was your initial thoughts, and what do you think he could bring to the team?
So my initial thoughts were, boy, the NFL really hates Bill Belichick.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this guy really wanted to coach in the NFL. But when you go scorched earth for 20 years and you have, there are multiple stories about how they treated other teams, didn't interact with other players, what he did to his own players, always letting them go a year early before a year late. Look, that results in winning. And as you said, he's one of the best that's ever done it.
Yep.
What's going to happen is when you are 70-some years old looking for a job, people are going to remember how you treated them. And I think the NFL has decided they've had enough Bill Belichick. Did I think he was going to go to college? I had no idea. So my first thought was, this is a joke. I'm being punked. But I'm excited to see what he is able to do at North Carolina. I will also tell you, the first thing I did is I went to DraftKings, saw what the over was, and I bet on the over and wins. Because I think he's going to have success. I think it'll be limited because I think he'll be in the NFL in another year, but I think he'll have success.
Yeah, he signed a 5-year contract, and only I think the first 2 or 3 years are guaranteed. He has a $10 million buyout if he were to buy out now, but it'll be a $1 million buyout by June of next year. So it kind of works for both sides, honestly. And there's a lot of incentives for him. Like, he gets more money if he wins the ACC title, national championship, like you usually always get for certain contracts. But as a coach, the greatest coach of all time who knows ins and outs of the game, if I'm a top recruit in high school or even a young freshman, sophomore in college trying to enter the transfer portal or quarterback or whatever, I kind of want to go to a guy like that who coached the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady, and look what he turned out to be. I know people like to say Tom Brady's the GOAT, which the greatest quarterback of all time by far, but let's be honest, those first 2 or 3 Super Bowls, it was Bill Belichick's genius in that defense as a defensive mastermind who was a former defensive coordinator that helped them win those first 2-3 Super Bowls during the Brady dominance era of the New England Patriots. So if I'm a quarterback, I want to go to that guy because he's going to make me see the game in a different way. He's going to teach me things I didn't see before. And even I'm a defensive guy, he's going to teach me the fundamentals of the game and to see the game differently. And he's going to be leaps and bounds ahead of these college coaches. Like Clemson, I know has been dominating the ACC for a while. Dabo Swinney, he's a great coach. Bill Belichick's going to, I feel like if he gets the right personnel, he's going to expose him and make him look silly because he's that much of a mastermind. And I'm just excited to see that. John, you coach football. You told me you coach football, basketball, all that. Like, if you were, as a coach, and you're going to a new team, wouldn't you be trying to persuade people, especially if you were Bill Belichick? What would you tell your recruits?
So I'm actually a Syracuse alum and played there many, many years ago. So to throw Syracuse in the fodder of the ACC is hurtful, but probably true as well. Yeah. Here's why I think Bill Belichick is going to succeed. He understands how to develop a program, and he brought in Mike Lombardi, who is going to get him some talent. And I think you're right. If I'm a young player who wants to make the NFL, Bill Belichick is going to be somebody I look out for. At the same time, this is somebody who is replacing a 70-something Mac Brown and is a 70-something coach himself. Yep. How is he going to connect with young men who, sure, they know the name, but do they really understand what he did and developed in New York, where he was the most successful, in my opinion? He revolutionized defenses. Yeah. And then in New England, where he won 6 rings, maybe they connect that way, DJ. But if I'm a young recruit, I honestly, if I had a son getting ready to play football and Dabo Swinney was in my living room, I think he probably my son would be more excited by Dabo Swinney just because of the type of recruiter Dabo Swinney is. Is Bill Belichick going to be able to do that, or is he going to have to rely on the transfer portal? Either way, he's going to get talent. This won't be a 5-year thing, though. This will be a 1 or 2 year thing. So it'll be fun. Your show's going to get a lot of fodder and a lot of information off of it. I can tell you that.
Appreciate that, man. But yeah, it's a UNC team. They have not won the ACC since 1980, and the last time they won double-digit games in a season was 2015. It's been a decade. So this program, they really needed this jolt. Is a seismic shift for them, and then I think this is going to be something that's going to shift the culture. But yes, John, before you leave, tell people where they can find your work.
Oh, thank you. You can find me at Cinderblock Sports. My website, my blog is up there, and you can also find me on Fansided, writing about college and pro football. DJ, always great to join you. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on, John, and I appreciate you so much taking time out of your busy schedule and coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, that's John O'Donnell. But yes, next, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk quickly my NBA Quarterly Awards, and then we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk my NBA Quarterly Awards, talking about NBA MVP, things of that nature. You listen to DJ Sports here on WRCR Radio, and we'll be right back. And yes, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, DJ Hamilton, DJ Sports Show, here back on WRCR Radio. And now, before we close out the show, I just want to quickly talk about my NBA Quarterly Awards, as we're at the quarter mark of the NBA season, Christmas time, usually around that time where we hit the 25, 20, 30 game mark of the NBA. So I just want to quickly get into it. So Rookie of the Year. So far, I have Jared McCain of the Philadelphia Sixers. He leads all rookies in scoring, 15.3 points per game, on 46% from the field and 38% from 3. He is the first Sixers rookie guard to score 3 straight games of 20-plus points he did earlier this season. The other one was Allen Iverson. And we all know how good Allen Iverson was. I know you know him.
I do.
Yes,
do.
The
He
answer.
was great. The answer. He was great.
Oh, man.
Practice.
I love.
What do you mean practice?
Yeah, we talking about, not a game.
Practice.
Not a game. Practice?
Practice. He didn't have to practice.
Oh, nah.
Nope.
And he's also McCain.
Among one of the best NBA players to also never win a championship. But
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
He's got good company.
Oh, yeah. And so McCain was also the second youngest Sixer to score 34-plus points in a game, which he did against the Cavaliers earlier this season. The other one was Tyrese Maxey, who has turned into an all-star for the Sixers and one of the best young players in the league. In 8 games as a starter, he averaged over 23.8 points, 3.4 rebounds, and 4.3 assists per game. And I was doing some digging on Basketball Reference and advanced stats, and I saw McCain, since 2010, some of the rookies he's accompanied with for per 100 possessions. Before yesterday's game, where his numbers kind of dropped, he was averaging over 30 points per game per 100 possessions. The other rookies since 2010 to do that, I saw some names like Kyrie Irving, Victor Wembanyama. I see Joel Embiid, Zion Williamson. That's some pretty good company right there. Those Luka Doncic. Those guys are super. All of them are probably going to be Hall of Famers. Maybe aside from Williamson, the injuries kind of hurting him. But Embiid, Luka, Kyrie, bona fide Hall of Famers, and Victor if he stays healthy. I mean, that's pretty good company. And when he was coming out of Duke, nobody thought he would be that good. So, yeah, he's my Rookie of the Year so far. Sixth man of the year, I'm going Peyton Pritchard, Boston Celtics, 6 foot. This guy, man, he became one of the 10 Celtics to hit 500 three-pointers made in Celtics history, and this is the most historic franchise, arguably in all of sports. That's great company. Yeah,
and big on 3-pointers back in the day, no doubt.
Yeah. He increased his points per game almost by 7 points. He's averaging career high 16.5 points per game, career highs in field goal percentage, field goal attempts, 3-point percentage, and steals. And he was the first Celtics player with at least 25 points and 10 assists while making 5 threes while coming off the bench, which he did in their 123-99 win on Thursday over the Detroit Pistons. So I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, he's my most improved and sixth man of the year. This guy, I don't think right now there's really a competition for him for sixth man of the year and most improved right now. If it isn't him, I don't know who it is. Coach of the year, I'm going Kenny Atkinson of the Cleveland Cavaliers. He has unlocked Evan Mobley, who has taken his game to the next level. They're second in scoring NBA right now, third in point differential, lead the league in fourth quarter points, and they're the best shooting team by field goal percentage and 3-point percentage as of we speak right now in the NBA. And he just has the Cavs playing a great brand of team basketball, and he's just doing an incredible job. So right now, he's my coach of the year. Defense player of the year, Victor Wembanyama, one of 3 players in NBA history in his second season to average over 20-plus points, 10-plus rebounds, 3-plus blocks per game, 1-plus steals per game. The others, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson.
Nice.
Pretty good company.
Good company.
That's
no doubt.
pretty great
Good
company. And those guys are all-time greats. He's leading the league in blocks. He's top 10 defensive rating and also top 15 in defensive box plus minus. So he's been doing an incredible job. I hope the Spurs make the playoffs. I know they probably do it by record, but yeah, he's my defense player of the year. And then lastly, MVP Jokic. Before last night, where he didn't have the greatest numbers, but they still won the game, he was averaging a triple-double, 50, 50, and 80 splits. I'm just like, he's shooting 50% from three-point range.
Nice.
And before last night, his PER was on pace for the greatest regular season PER in NBA history. He already holds the top one from 2021-22.
Wow.
But he might have the second best or the best, depending on how he continues to play the rest of the season. And he also was the first player in NBA history recently to have at least 100 points, 30 rebounds, and 15 assists in a 2-day span, which he did against the Wizards when he scored 56 points, and the Hawks when they won that game when he scored 48. So, yeah, he's incredible. So that's my NBA quarterly awards for now. But, yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for here on the DJ Sports Show. Hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. And I just want to wish y'all a Merry Christmas, since we won't see you guys for another 2 weeks. So it's DJ Hamilton, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.